I've always wondered why I was born. Was I a burden to a young woman who hadn't lived yet? Or was I a gift? Was I to make my mother happy? Are children a source of happiness? I don't know. So I've decided to investigate my question. Are people with kids happier than people without kids? So I thought the first thing I should do is, talk to someone who had children. So I chose to speak with my mother. My mother has 2 kids. She also works with children. She's a juvenile counselor for at-risk and delinquent kids.
I do not think that people with children are happier than people without children, because people that don't have children have more freedom, which means they have more money if they're working, and they get to spend it on only themselves. They only have to be concerned about themselves. Parents are worried daily about what's happening with their kids, did they eat, so forth and so on. So it's a daily worry when you have kids. Are they okay? Are they sick? Big or small, it really doesn't matter.
Postdoctoral scholar at Stanford, Elizabeth W. Dunn, says parents are happier when taking care of children than while doing other daily activities. Fathers in particular express greater levels of happiness, positive emotion, and meaning in their life than their childless peers. This finding requires further study, Dunn noted, adding that the pleasures of parenthood may be offset by the surging responsibility and housework that arrives with motherhood. Older and married parents tend to be the happiest. Our findings suggest that if you're older and presumably more mature, and if you are married and presumably have more social and financial support, then you are likely to be happier if you have children than your peers. According to Ellen Walker, Ph.D. from Psychology Today, kids burden marital life. She says, what about the sex? Couples rarely have time for it. There's often not enough energy, and most conversations tend to become more baby-focused. She also goes on to talk about the stress and the worry factor. She says, sometimes child-focused worries and crises result in parents blaming one another for the situation. As a child that comes from a big family and being a girl, for a long time the only girl, I can definitely see how parents can take their worries out on. After I talked to someone who had children, I chose to interview someone who didn't have children, but that worked with children for a living. I chose Shakina Taylor, a college counselor at High Bronx. She doesn't have children of her own, but she works with hundreds for a living, and she has a stepson. So I chose to ask her what she thought.
It depends on whether or not people without children are happier. I don't have any biological children, but I do have a stepson, and he definitely brings joy to my life. At the same time, I do like the freedom that I have with not having kids in terms of being able to travel, see my friends. I also feel like when a person has a child impacts their happiness, that when they have them really young and aren't prepared to have them, I think that can definitely add to their stress.
Going into the interview, I thought that she'd tell me that she'd rather not have kids. Though she does want kids, she does have worries and burdens. USA Today has a different take. They say married couples with kids are happy. They quote Miko Marskaila of the Max Planck Institute for Demographic Research in Rostock, Germany. He says, we find no evidence that parental well-being decreases after a child is born to levels preceding the children. But we find strong evidence that well-being is elevated when people are planning and waiting for the child, and in the year when the child is born. So do you think that after you do have a child, because I know you're engaged to be married, Miss Taylor.
Yes, I am.
So do you think that after you do have a child that you're going to lose your freedom and you're not going to be as happy as you are now?
That is a very real possibility. Also, when you have a child, your relationship changes. So I'm going to have a husband, and we're going to have to sort of reevaluate our boundaries, because we're not just going to be two people in love. We're going to be two parents together.
Does having me and Tia make you less happy?
No, I mean, I'm happy that I have you guys in my life, but I still think that people that don't have kids are more happy because they don't have any responsibility. It's very stressful being a parent. I have to worry daily.
Based on the research that I've done and the interviews I've conducted, I've come to the conclusion that everyone is different. Some people may be happy with the family that they have. Some people may not be fortunate enough to have a family. But income and job stability, all of these things play into whether you're happy with your family or not. I think as a child I'm a bit biased when I say that kids do make you happy. I make my mom happy. At least I think so. And I think all parents should be happy because kids are a precious gift and should be treated as such.